Hey everyone. In this class we've talked about how math is important. We're definitely going to learn a lot of math, but some things that I try to weave in as well are life skills. For example, we talked about with the emails that I'm picky with how emails are sent and the way that those are formatted. Another life skill, an academic skill that's going to be important as you go through high school is going to be being able to advocate for yourself. And what that means is that, well, I'll give you an example this way. In middle school, a lot of times you did some homework, corrected it as a class together, took your time, answered every question, went through every problem in depth, all that kind of stuff. And that's great. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's the way middle school should be. But now, because of time and because you guys are growing up, when we correct things, especially, I'm not going to take the time to go through every detail of every single little problem. I'll point out the ones that I think people commonly struggle with or things that I want you guys to watch out for. But every question, we just don't have the time to go through every little question. So I'll show you answers to everything, just like you see right now. And if you have questions, I'm more than happy to talk about any questions that you have. But oftentimes when we correct, it will be me showing you a section, you go through and correct. And then if you have a question, you've got to be willing to advocate for yourself or be bold enough to raise a hand, ask a question, or hold up after class and ask me a question. So in this video, we kind of have a little showing of that. In that, I'm not going to go through and talk through number 1 through 6. You can see this. If you need longer to look at it, you can pause the video and you can take longer to look at it. Now, if you have questions, advocating for yourself would mean that you send me an email. Hey, Mr. Lehman, I had a question on number blah, 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 and send me a picture of that question and what you tried to do. So remember, in 1 through 6, you only had to check 3 solutions. So you didn't have to check all of them, but I went through and checked all of them so that if any 3 that you chose, you can double check and make sure that you did it correctly. On the quiz, it's not going to ask you to check solutions, but that could be really helpful to make sure that you're getting questions right. Number 7, your school's football team scored 49 points. Your team's score was 19 points more than the opponent's score, S. Write and solve an equation to find the opponent's score. Like you can see, whatever the opponent's score was, if you add 19 to it, that would get your score. So we don't know the opponent's score, but whatever it is, plus 19, that would give you 49. Obviously, you'd subtract 19 from both sides. Your opponents would have scored 30. There's your final answer. There are several story problems on the quiz, so we do need to be ready to write equations like this and then to solve. 8 through 13, just like on the first ones, I'm not going to talk through all of these. Take a second to pause this video. You had to check 3 solutions. And if you have questions, then that would be something you advocate and let me know, and I will get back to you on those. $14, you earn $7.50 an hour. You earn $33.75. Write and solve an equation. In total, you earn $33.75. Write and solve an equation. So you know that you earn 7.5 per hour, or 7.5 times the number of hours that you work will give you the total money that you make. Now they're telling you the total money you make is $33.75. So here's your equation. Divide to get h by itself, and this would mean that you had to work 4.5 hours to make $33.75. These were tricky. There will not be an absolute value on the quiz. There will not be x, but this is a more realistic quiz question. Absolute value of -4. Remember, absolute value is just asking how far away you are from 0. So the absolute value of -4 would just be 4. A one-step equation, add 4 to both sides, to solve for S, plug it back in to check your solution. Over here, this is more like what we worked on in 1.2, order of operations. We've got to combine like terms before we can start to solve. Probably looking at this now makes it look a lot easier than when we looked at it on Tuesday. P equals -8, plug it in to check. The volume of the cylinder is 65 pi. So total volume, when you're all done, the volume. The height of the cylinder is 5 centimeters. Use the formula to find the area of the base of the cylinder. Now, area of the base of the cylinder is represented by that big B. So that might be something that you didn't quite remember from, let's see, that might have been 7th grade, but probably touched on it in 8th grade as well. So volume equals, we're solving for that big B, times H. As you can see, I just plug in what we know. We know 65 pi, we know that the height is 5. Divide both sides by 5, we would get 13 pi, and even though it's unusual and a little messy, that would be our final answer. Now in the quiz, I would not expect you, I would tell you, I would say, reminder or note. B means, the big B, capital B, means area of the base. So I wouldn't expect you to know that off the top of your head, but I would expect you to be able to plug things in and then solve on your own. 18, the total area of this shape is 44 square inches, total. When you see something like that, the total area you earned in total, I mean, they don't say total, but we can know that that's what it means. Your team scored 49 points. That's the total number of points. When you see things like that, you should know that whatever comes after that is going to be what you're setting things equal to. Total area is 44. Area of the triangle is 20. Right? And solve an equation to find the area of the rectangle. So the total area of this whole thing, whatever this plus that, has to equal 44. We said the rectangle was R, or that's what I said. 20 plus whatever the area of R is has to be 44. Solve for R, the area of the rectangle is 24. Moving on to 1.2. Again, not going to talk through these. You had to check 3 solutions. So take a look at these first 6. That might mean you need to pause the video. Well, that definitely means you need to pause the video because I'm moving on to number 7. The cost in dollars of making n feet of cabinet is represented by that equation. How many feet of cabinet are made when the cost is 441? Again, the total is 441. They give us the equation. The cost is 441. Setting it equal to 441, we would need to subtract 45. Two-step equation. Subtract 45. And then divide by 18 second. So that would be 18 n equals, divide by 18, you'd get 22. So the cost of making that many feet of cabinet is represented by that. How many feet? So that means you made a cabinet that is 22 feet long. At the movies, you order 3 boxes of popcorn and a bottle of water. The cost of the bottle of water is $1.75. Your total is $9.25. Write and solve an equation to find the cost of 1 box of popcorn. Whatever the cost of popcorn is, you know that total popcorn plus water is $9.25. Whatever popcorn is plus whatever water is, $9.25. You know you have 3 boxes of popcorn, and you don't know how much an individual box is. We'll just call that X. We don't know. 3 times something. We know that we got 1 water, and it was $1.75 for that water. Oh, I called it P over there. I'll keep that consistent. P for popcorn. We know it equals 925. Now you can see it. I pick up right here and right here. Simplify. 3 times P plus 175. Then you need to call. Then you need to call. That doesn't even make sense. Then you need to solve. There we go. 1 box of popcorn, our p-value, would be 250. And you could check it. 250 times 3 plus 175, you get 925 back. Number 9. Rope is cut into 3 pieces. The rope is 25 feet long. So like you can see over here, I think this visual makes a big difference. If you're looking to get partial credit on a story problem, drawing a picture can be a good way to do that. Showing me you're at least understanding the problem, even if you don't get the right answer. 25 feet long. It's cut into 3 sections. 2x, 5x, and 4. If we add these sections together, that's what's going to give us our total of 25 feet. Whatever those sections are, they've got to add up to 25 feet. So we can add them. We got to combine like terms and then solve for x. Part B, find the length of the first and second piece. Well, we know what x is. If we plug it back in, we could find the length. 2 times 3 gives me 6. 5 times 3 is 15. Now we can double check all of our work by saying, all right, if this is 6, this is 15, and we know this is 4, 6 plus 15 is 21, 21 plus 4 is 25. Boom, it checks out. Good job. 10, skip. 11, we're using the distributive property. Distribute, combine like terms, solve for the variable. I'm not going to go in depth on those two. I will leave those like that, so you may need to pause it to look at some of those steps if you got it wrong. 13 through 15, I got a lot of questions about what a constant is. A constant is just any number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, any negative number, -5, -6. All it's saying is pretend like A, or pretend like everything that's not X is some number. All it wants you to do is try to get X by itself. So if you are trying to get rid of this negative constant, negative A, whatever A is, you would need to add it to both sides. And then we can't combine those because they're not like terms. So we just have X equals 2 plus A. Over here, divide by our constant, divide by B. It's B times X. The inverse of that is to divide. Letter C, number 15. Now, this is what the book is trying to do. They're trying to make you use the distributive property a little bit. They're actually trying to make you use the inverse of the distributive property, but there is an easier way to do this. Notice we have 3cx, and this is really 1cx. Even though there's several variables, these are like terms because they both have the same amount of the same variables. This has 1c. That has 1c, 1x, and 1x. So total I have 4. Now I can try to get x by itself. Divide by 4c, divide by 4c. Now I'd get x equals 7 over 4c. A little bit tricky. One like this would not be on your quiz. That's a little bit more than what we need to do. It could be. If you go this route, a little more than what we need to do. This route is not so bad. Again, overall, if you've got questions, you've got to send me an email. Whether it's in work, in school, whatever, there are going to be plenty of times where maybe someone doesn't recognize you need help or is working on something else or whatever, and you've got to be able to reach out and say, hey, I've got a question about this because I'm asking you to do that, I'm inviting you to do that, and now you just need to take advantage of that.